Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking at The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan, the second entry in the Wheel of Time series. Now, full disclosure guys, this is actually me re-recording this video. I am recording it again the day after finishing recording for my Dragon Reborn review. Now, the reason for this is because once I finished recording for the Dragon Reborn review, I was actually happy with it and I thought I'd done a better job than normal. So I went back and looked at the Great Hunt review I had ready to upload and I just wasn't happy with it. I thought, well, first of all, I messed up the settings on my phone using that as a camera, so the lighting looked really bad. And secondly, I just was not happy with the footage. I didn't enjoy watching it. I thought if I redone it, I could do it a bit better, maybe bring a bit more energy. I thought you guys deserved a better upload than what that would have been. So I am redoing it now. So the issue with that is that if you guys watched my Eye of the World review, you know I really enjoy predictions. Predictions is my favorite part of making these reviews. So I just did not feel comfortable re-recording predictions after I've already read past them. So what I've done is, for anything that is a guess or prediction based, I will be using the old footage, and for anything that's not, I will be the new footage. So you can tell the difference by the lighting obviously, and also in the old footage I will be wearing a brown t-shirt instead of this one. So getting back into the review guys, there will be a spoiler free section and a spoiler filled section later on, and I am loving this series so far. It is 2 for 2. I am already seeing this as potentially one of my favorites, if not my favorite overall by the time I'm finished, and I definitely need to collect the tour covers, the tour hardback covers, because these mass market paperbacks are just not cutting it. There were some issues I had with this book, some things that didn't really land for me, but overall I did really enjoy this, and I did probably enjoy it overall as much as The Eye of the World. So the main objective of this book is to retrieve the Horn of Valere after it's stolen from Faldara. We have Rand, Mat, Perrin, and Loyal. They set out to retrieve it from the people who took it with the help of some Shi'anaran soldiers. And meanwhile we have Nynaeve and Egwene. They are on their way to the White Tower to begin their training as novices. And this book has a different vibe to The Eye of the World. It is a bit darker along the way. You see the aftermath of some pretty gruesome acts, and there's a bit of a game of cat and mouse along the way as well. And book one kind of felt more about prophecies and kind of the denial of being a part of them, and whereas book two for me felt more like it was about accepting that place in the prophecies and accepting the kind of responsibilities that come with your position in them. So my main problems with this book were predictability at times and sword fights. So when it comes to predictability, that's a bit more subjective, maybe it's just me, but I felt like there was at least 3 moments that kind of fell flat for me because I kind of saw them just coming from a mile away. And when it comes to the sword fights, there is a sword fight around in this that is just flat out probably the worst fight I've read to date. It just lists a bunch of stance names and you're meant to follow the fight that way, and it's made even worse by the fact of who it is against. I just didn't enjoy that fight at all. In the first book we kind of got hints of bigger happenings around the world, and in this book we actually get to witness them firsthand, which I really enjoyed. There was some amazing world building in this. I loved every single bit of it. We learn a lot about the White Tower and the different Aes Sedai Ajas, a bit of what they are about, and we learn about the power struggle in the White Tower as well. And we also learn a lot about the great political game called the Great Game in Cairhien, and there's also another really fascinating nation that pops up later on that I won't spoil, but I really love that introduction as well. We also learn about the different prophecies in different nations as well, which is really interesting. There's a Koramor, who is the sea folks chosen one. There's the prophecies that the Aiel follow as well. We start to hear a bit about that, and we also find out that there's even a dark prophecy that the Dark Friends follow. And we find out a lot about what the Aes Sedai do to train novices through Egwene and Nynaeve's point of views. And we also meet some returning characters from the Eye of the World in the White Tower as well, which was fun to see. And we even start to get some POVs from side characters that were in the Eye of the World. So we get some great side characters in this. I love all the companion characters in this series so far. We get My Sniff a Hurin, absolute gem, one of the highlights of this book. He has this sick ability where he's able to smell violence and evil, and kind of depending on how vile the act committed was, it makes a stronger stench and it lasts longer as well. And then we also get this mysterious woman in white called Celine. She was pretty cool. Rand in this is vehemently denying being any part of the pattern. He does not want to be the chosen one at all. He's not having it. And it's what he struggled with for the whole book. But we see that the pattern the Wheel weaves already has plans in store for him. Mat and Perrin, they don't really get much of a focus in this. We still get some POVs from Perrin, but they are very much on the sidelines so that we can get a more of a focus on Nynaeve and Egwene. And I still hate Egwene with a passion, surprise, surprise, but Nynaeve, easily my favourite character after this book. I really loved her arc in this. So I talked about this a bit in my Eye of the World review, but something I really love about this series is the realism of the inhabitants of the world that Jordan has created. And this comes down to just how they shows such a fear and stigmatization of anything to do with the One Power, and it comes down to how the citizens themselves react to any hint of the One Power, and even how the Emmons Fielders react to Rand being able to channel now. Something I didn't even think about while reading The Eye of the World is that the concept of ta'veren is actually kind of brilliant, because I know myself in particular, when I'm reading something else, I don't question when all the main characters come together. I don't really question, well, what are the odds of this happening? You know, they have all these chance encounters. But then in The Eye of the World, Jordan can use the most bullshit plot conveniences or have the most blatant plot armor, and then he can just be like, well, the wheel weaves as the wheel wills. They're ta'veren in it. And I just really like that idea. That's it for spoilers free section. Going into spoilers now. Rand's arc in this was just simply great. I loved his development from Shepherd to Lord. It's pretty much the same situation you have in countless other stories where great leaders don't choose to lead, they're chosen. And it's pretty much the same arc that Perrin goes on. He has the not the leadership aspect, but Perrin also has the reluctant acceptance of what he really is. I loved watching Lan, Huron, and Selene slowly mold him into the leader he is by the end. That was really satisfying. The way he composes himself is different, the way he thinks is different, and there was just this amazing line at the end that I really loved where he says, "Death is lighter than a feather, duty heavier than a mountain." I have no idea where this line came from. Another thing I really loved about Rand's arc in this is how we got to see some of the insecurities that a leader kind of character is facing. So when he is first split up from everybody with Huron and Loyal, he is as equally distraught as the other two, but he kind of understands he needs to be the rock for them, and he meets the call, so to speak. And I really love seeing that kind of thing in that kind of character, because us as readers, we get to see through the chinks in his armor, so to speak, but then we also get to see from the perspective of his followers, such as Huron, how they see him as this flawless person. It was also really hard seeing Rand be so harsh to the guys at the start of the book, especially after seeing what he went through with Matt during the Eye of the World. And I was actually surprised when Matt and Perrin switched up on him so quickly after finding out he can channel. I thought initially that was a bit of a dick move, but it does actually add to the level of realism I talked about in the spoiler free section, because it shows you just how badly that the One Power is looked at by the general citizens of the world. Because if something is giving such a bad rep to the point where it can drive a wedge between the kind of friendships we saw during the Eye of the World, it really shows you just how feared and stigmatized the One Power really is. Selene in this was very intriguing. I actually liked her a lot more than I thought I would. She is very obviously Lanfear from the very first mention of her. That's just a bit of a Chekhov's gun situation there, because at the start of the book we had Moraine and Swan talking a lot about Lanfear, a lot more than any Forsaken has been talked about so far. So obviously when a mysterious woman in white shows up in the mirror world and also just randomly shows up around different alleyway corners, of course she's Lanfear, pretty obvious. And there's just loads of hints throughout this, like she slowly manipulates Rand's shirt into a new white dress at some point, which granted that might have been a harder hint to spot, but it's there. And even Varian says, if I use that portal zone, I'm dead, no shot. And that's supposedly how Lanfear even got to the mirror world at the first place. Even again, you can see throughout her entire interactions with Rand and Loyal that she uses some kind of magic to keep them entranced with her. Knowing that it was Lanfear from the start actually kind of made it more enjoyable for me, because you kind of see just how much effort she really put into trying to manipulate Rand into being a great man and into channeling, like how she definitely influenced the Grolem to chase them towards the portal stone so that they would be confronted and cornered, so that they actually had to get Rand to channel. I'm looking forward to how things progress with Selene. I don't think she is a straight up villain. Like, she's definitely a bad guy. Like, she is Forsaken. She has devoted herself to the shadows. I feel like she might be like more in the gray area, at least when it comes to Rand anyways, because she clearly wants him. She clearly wants to be with him. Like, she already sees him as hers. I think she might be a bit of a reoccurring character who's there with Rand at times and maybe is a bit of a negative influence. She's clearly more in the darker shade of grey, because she has been manipulating everybody with magic the whole time, like mentally and emotionally. And I am very anxious to see what she done with the fang of the dragon at the end on Rand's forehead when he was unconscious. She obviously healed him, but I don't think it was that simple. I don't know what the after effects would have been. I think maybe she done that so that she could track him wherever he ends up. As I mentioned, it was glaringly obvious that Selene was Lanfear, and that brings me into one of my complaints for this book, which is the predictability aspect. Now, when it comes to Selene, I already explained that, but Leandrin and Ingtar, I thought the whole threat of the Dark Friends and what made them a danger to our characters were that you can't tell who the Dark Friends are when you're going about your day-to-day business, because they are still putting on airs. But then you have in this book the two most obvious dark friends ever in Ingtar and Leandrin. You have Leandrin, who is just very rotten from her first appearance, and you just know instantly she's probably a dark friend. She's pretty mean. And then you have Ingtar, who is just suspicious for the whole journey. He's constantly saying, I have to have the horn, I have to. And granted, in Ingtar's defense, that is more for his salvation rather than a task given to him by Baalzamon. But even before that, when he's in the keep in Faldara, he goes to have a little hero charge versus a fade, and he just survives that off screen, so that's a bit of a red flag as well. And even before this book even began, in the Eye of the World, he was super salty about not being able to go to Tywin's Gap, which was another red flag at the time of reading. So even if you take away all the information we only know as readers, I feel like the only reasonable explanation for people like Leandrin and Ingtar not being caught out before is just complete obliviousness from the characters. Like, take Ingtar. How did nobody think it was a bit suspicious of Ingtar the whole journey of him saying he must have the horn, and they just did not comment on it at all until the very end? And even Leandrin, I'm not going to lie, when everybody got ambushed by the Sean Chan because of Leandrin, I actually did not care at all. I thought that was just very stupid of Nynaeve and Egwene to go with Leandrin there. I know they were under the impression that she was helping them help out with the boys, but I just thought that was very poorly thought out by Nynaeve and Egwene, and I actually think it was all Egwene's fault that they even ended up in that situation, because Nynaeve was thinking this out when they were back in the White Tower, and Egwene, being annoying as always, had to keep jumping in, had to keep saying, oh, of course we'll go, Leandrin. So when they got ambushed, it didn't really do much for me. As I mentioned at the start of the video, there were some moments that fell flat for me because of the predictability, those being Ingtar revealed as a dark friend, Leandrin revealed as a dark friend / her ambushing the girls, and Lanfear being revealed to be Selene. Those moments just didn't really do much for me because of it. I thought it was a bit too easy to piece together, but I think that's just me. I think that's a bit too subjective to hold against the book. Alright guys, I'm just getting ready to upload the video real quick, and I just wanted to jump right in. Sorry for how many versions of me you're seeing in this, but I just wanted to say really quick that I have changed my mind on this Lanfear and Min moment. I'm striking that from the list. I still have the same thoughts on the other two I mentioned, but this moment with Lanfear and Min still had enough tension to it. So yeah, take away the reveal aspect of that interaction. I still thought it was a really good interaction between Min and Selene, and it was still tense, as I said. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say real quick. Enjoy the rest of the video. While I'm complaining, I'll get into my second complaint, which is the fight with Rand versus Turak. That is, honestly guys, just a straight up horrible bit of choreography there. That was a terrible fight. Let me just read this back to you guys real quick. So, the swallow takes flight, met parting the silk, moon on the water, met the wood grouse dances, ribbon in the air, met stones falling from the cliff. Fast forward to when Rand is winning the fight. While Turak tried to face the boar, Rand charged, the river undercuts the bank. What? I have no idea what I just read to you guys. I have no idea how that fight went. That is just not choreographed properly. You cannot just use a bunch of stance names in lieu of actually directing the fight for the reader to follow. I thought that was just really bad. There was one bright side to this fight though. We got to see Rand properly evaluate the situation and determine that he should not use the one power instead of the sword in this, so that was really good to see. And speaking of Turak, the Sean-Chan in this are fucking awesome. I think that is an amazing addition to the story. I loved every line about their nation, and I really can't wait to see what awaits across the Arth Ocean back in their mainland. The Tower of Midnight, that was name dropped. I know that is the name of the penultimate book in the series. I hope it doesn't take that long for us to actually get to the Sean-Chan, but that was a good little thing to see. The Soldam and the Damani system is just so sick and twisted. I really can't wait to see what their actual homeland is like. I don't really have anything to add for Perrin and Matt. They took the backseat in this one. Loyal is even better in this than the Eye of the World. I'm very worried for Loyal after reading this, because I feel like it was heavily foreshadowed when they went to studying Stofu that he will die at some point. And if that happens, I will be emotionally distraught. I will be a wreck. I really hope that doesn't happen. And it was really good to see him kind of be officially one of the boys now. They're joking around about girls with Loyal as well now, and he has this moment where he is like, "Baby, tell her go break up with a troll!" Oh! She is very gorgeous to me! Rand really could not have picked two better companions to have in the mirror world. Loyal, it was just as necessary for Rand as Rand was for Loyal and Hurin, whereas Hurin is kind of the loyal servant for Rand. Loyal is the one that keeps his head screwed on straight when he's about to swerve off the path, and you can see that they're forming a really strong friendship. Yay, Tom's back. You know, when a character dies off screen, so to speak, he is definitely not actually dead. I can't wait to see what Tom does in future books, because we saw him just completely flip the switch after Dana was killed. And we already had hints that Tom was a lot more capable, dangerous, and knowledgeable than he let on during the Eye of the World, because we know he used to be the court bard for Morghese, and we know he disappeared for a while when his nephew was caught using the One Power. So he's obviously a lot more capable man than we know him to be so far. Like, even when we just see him use his knives on the two thugs after they kill Dana, I just really can't wait to see what happens with Tom in future. We got Damon and Bornhall chapters in this, which were really good, especially Damon's. There's some really interesting mystery going on with, like, why people are trying to kill him. Like, originally I thought it was because he has the Quain Diar seal of Hearthstone, but I feel like that's just too simple, because people are trying to be so secretive and discreet about how they kill him in a way that won't raise so many questions. So I feel like there's definitely something bigger going on, and I just can't even take a proper guess with what we know so far. It's also mentioned in this that Damon likes to collect old pieces of antiques from ages lost, and I feel like this is going to lead to Damon having one of the Terangrial that can give people the ability to channel the power without having any ability in themselves. And this was mentioned by Shirayam at one point during I think it was during the testing. She told Nynaeve that these kind of Terangrials do exist. So I think that might be one of the items that he has in his possession. And if I was to guess of one of the items that we already know he has, maybe the little wooden figurine of a man that I think he said he got from a shop somewhere. As I said earlier in the spoiler-free section, Nynaeve is my favorite character after the Great Hunt. I love her stubborn personality so much. She's the only character that I see my level of pettiness in as well, which is great to see. If I was in her shoes, I would 100% be making a list of names to pay back, and definitely the same names would be on it. So another thing I really enjoyed in this was watching Nynaeve more carefully think out plans and her situations before she acts, something that was interrupted by Egwene, which annoyed me very much, as I've already mentioned. And I really loved how Jordan in this seemed to make Nynaeve's growth as a channeler mirror Rand's. It was so crushing to watch her have to leave Lan in the final stage of the accepted testing. The accepted testing, the whole sequence was amazing from start to finish. We got to see Nynaeve face her fears, overcome them, and then have to show the will to leave them and come back to the real world. I thought that added so much extra depth to her character that was much appreciated. If any of the characters are going to grow to be as strong as the dragon, I feel like it's going to be Nynaeve. If she tames her anger and all her other emotions, she'll definitely be something special. And the same way I want Rand to take off his Aes Sedai leash, I really hope Nynaeve doesn't end up becoming a full sister. Or if she does, I hope she'll just be able to somehow leave it behind eventually. I really want her to just be her own separate entity on the same level as the dragon, but I don't think she'll be the Amerlin seat, because if anybody's going to be that, I think it's between Elaine and Egwene. It was also pretty cool watching Nynaeve as she forced the portal back open during the testing, how it flickered in and out of existence. It kind of really nicely mirrored how when Rand was using the portal stone, all the worlds were flickering in and out as well. And that was just one of the examples of Nynaeve mirroring Rand during this, but that was just the only one I can really remember off the top of my head. And it's also because of how strongly Nynaeve mirrors Rand that I feel like Nynaeve is definitely going to be the one to use the female side of the Terangriel that was mentioned. I think it was Celine that explained it to Rand, but basically the big Terangriel that they find, which is the statue holding the big crystal ball, they basically explained that that's only the male half and the female half is somewhere else, and somebody else needs to operate that. And that is just definitely going to be Nynaeve if I was to guess, because she does mirror Rand so very strongly. So I think that has to be Nynaeve. A meeting between Nynaeve and Morghese is at the tippity top of my wish list. I need this to happen. I need them to come together, have a clash of tempers, have a massive argument, and then be best friends afterwards. This has to happen. I need it. I think Nynaeve's experience in the testing and the whole topic of mirror worlds in this kind of confirms that the place where Baalzamon is confronting the boys in their dreams is like a separate mirror world or a dream world. I don't know if a dream world is a thing, but I think it's something like that where he meets them. Because when Nynaeve leaves her testing, she has the same wounds that she got during the testing. Shirayam also mentions that the Aes Sedai have lost the true purpose of the Angreals that they are using. So I feel like this was originally during the Age of Legends an Angreal that was used to enter the dream world for a different purpose than what the Aes Sedai are doing. So, oh my god, guys, who saw it coming? Who knew that I would still hate Egwene by the end of this book? Who guessed correctly? Yes, she is still very fucking annoying, and you know what? When she became a Damani, I was happy. I was genuinely glad that she ended up in that situation, because, first of all, I think it's her own fault that they were even captured by Leandrin. Second of all, I think it's very much needed for her as a character because she has way too high of a sense of self-importance, which, having finished The Dragon Reborn, does not go away anytime soon, it seems like. But I think her being a Damani, being treated even worse than a dog would be, was very much needed for her to kind of get rid of that aspect of her personality. But Egwene being Egwene, that just doesn't seem to be the case. And she just has these lines where she infuriates me, guys. Like, she had this one line in this where she's like, Rand, when are you gonna stop making me play the heroine and come save you? I'm like, what? Shut the fuck up, Egwene. I know she helped him at the start, hiding her in the women's quarters and all that shit, but God, she says the most annoying stuff all the time. I am not completely heartless though, guys. When she was saved by Nynaeve and Elaine and Min, I still thought that was very good. I was happy for her to still be freed, but I just couldn't help but feel like she deserved to be in that situation in the first place. There was some interesting information about the Seanchan from Egwene's POV chapters though. We kind of see there might be some sort of high need for metals over in Seanchan, or maybe there's some kind of shortage of it. But you can see that because when she displays the ability to detect auras hidden away, they take a really high interest in her. So I wonder what the actual need for that is, unless it's just a novelty for them. I was actually thinking about this while writing the script for this review, but I think maybe that the Seanchan, they're across the Arctic Ocean, right? Maybe the breaking of the world over where we are didn't affect them as badly. Maybe they're a bit more advanced, I'm thinking, and they have more use for all the metals. I don't really have any other idea why they would need them. There is still hope that Egwene fucks off though, thank the Lord. At some point Min mentions to Elaine that she's going to have to share her husband and that it's going to be with 2 other women. And initially I was dreading it because I thought that the other 2 was going to be Min and Egwene. But then later on, Min reveals that there's also a 4th girl that Rand has not met yet, that we haven't seen yet. So thank the Lord that Egwene might not be one of those 2. I hope it's not Elaine. I hope it's not Min taken out of that equation. I hope it is Egwene. The 4th person could be Celine or Els. I don't think it would be though. I think it's most likely going to be a Seanchan person or a Aiel woman. So Moiraine isn't in this book much. After the beginning, we learn a bit more about her plans, and we find out that she's actually been in cahoots with the Amerlin Seat the whole time, because when they were novices, they witnessed the Keeper of Chronicles at the time have a foretelling, and ever since they've been planning on making sure the prophecy of the dragon is actually fulfilled properly. And I still don't like Moiraine, guys. I think she's an interesting character, but I just can't stand Aes Sedai in general. I just don't like them at all. I don't like their demeanor. I don't like how they act towards other people. And at the same time that we're with Moiraine and Swan at the start of the book, we learn a bit more about the White Tower and the internal struggle between the different Ajahs. And we also learn a bit about the different Ajahs as well. We learn that the Reds are antagonistic towards the Blues because on 2 separate occasions there were Red sisters that were the Amerlin Seat, and on both occasions they were removed and replaced by Blue Ajah. And we also start to see that there are some Ajahs starting to subtly move against Swan. They're straight up just opposing her out in open sometimes, which isn't normally done. We learn a lot about the ideals of different Ajahs. We have the Green Sisters, who are basically the opposites of the Reds, and they definitely be fucking. They can have multiple warders, and they are just kindly towards men in general. We have the Red Sisters, who are very just mean in general, it seems, and they are the ones that have a general disdain for men, and they, I believe they are the ones who hunt men who are gentled. We don't know much about the Blues. They seem to be the more righteous of the sisterhoods. Then what else do we see? We see the Yellow Ajah and the White Ajah. I don't believe we learn much of their ideals in this book. I can't remember if we meet the Grey Ajah in this book, but that is the 7th Ajah. And we meet the Brown Ajah as well in Verin. And the Browns, they are determined towards knowledge seeking. They want to constantly learn more and expand what they already know. So that's pretty much all I have to say for main characters. We had some returning characters again, like Min, Gawain, Galad, and Elaine. The Trakan siblings were great. Min was great. And I liked Lan a lot more after this book as well, because just seeing him really try his hardest to help Rand as much as possible, given the circumstances and his position in relation to Moiraine. The foreshadowing payoffs in this were also amazing, and it really shows you that you really need to pay as close attention to detail as possible when you're reading this to make the series be as rewarding a read as possible. So one of the examples of particular note to me was when Rand is using the portal stone to try and access the different mirror worlds. He describes the power suffusing his limbs as water being poured onto sand. Now, if you don't pay close enough to attention to detail, this may go over your head a bit, but this was actually mentioned by Min in The Eye of the World. When she first looked at Rand, one of the things she saw in his aura was water being poured onto sand. Now, this took me by surprise initially because I was thinking of what Min saw in people's auras way too literally, and that was made clear by what happened with the mirror worlds. I was literally expecting Rand to, at some point in the story, be throwing like a bucket of water onto sand for some reason. That whole part where Rand is seeing all the different mirror worlds, that was definitely probably my favorite chapter in the whole book. I really loved that whole sequence of seeing Rand just look through the history of the wheel at all the different variations of what his life could have been. And the ending was great. The fight with Balsamon was pretty meh for me. The stance names in fights just need to go away. It would make them a lot more interesting, or a lot more enjoyable, I mean. But besides that, the whole final battle was really good. It had me on the edge of my seat. I loved seeing the horn being used to bring back all the legends from the stories, like Arthur Hawking and Berth. Is that what? I don't know how do you say her name? Bridget? Have no idea. Bidet? I don't know. But that was really cool seeing them all come back. So for my prediction from last video, I was way off with Rand. I thought he was going to be a false dragon the whole time, but he's not. He's the actual Dragon Reborn. I just thought it was going to be too convenient for it to be Rand, but I guess not. I'm still keeping my prediction that Matt is going to the dark side. I think it's pretty much set in stone that he's going to. I know I didn't mention this in the Eye of the World video, but I think he is actually Aemon reincarnated. I think it was Perrin said that to him in that book. But I think even though he is Aemon reincarnated, he will still go to the dark side. I think he might become something like what Fane currently is, or maybe even a Forsaken if he gets to that level. There isn't really any more merit in arguing that Rand is the dragon at the moment, and for the same reason I have to kind of change my predictions on Perrin. So initially Min saw a broken crown over Perrin's head in the Eye of the World, and I thought maybe the broken crown was kind of an indication of Perrin being the dragon, because the broken crown, I thought maybe the dragon was kind of defeated and broken, so to speak, so I thought maybe those two were kind of parallels, but I guess that was wrong. So now that I'm kind of giving over to the fact that Rand is the dragon, I presume the crown over Perrin's head is actually just showing that he will be a king or leader of his own group or nation, but he will be defeated and maybe killed. I hope not killed, but definitely defeated, seeing as the crown was broken. And I really hope it's not Rand that defeats him. I think it's definitely likely because it's such a long story, 14 books. There's going to be conflicts of ideals at some point. Another reason I can see them coming to odds is that towards the end of this book, Min mentions that she saw an axe over Elaine's head now. And an axe at this point surely means Perrin. And I think it's set in stone that Elaine marries Rand at some point. So maybe that's a link to their potential beef in the future as well. Another theory for Perrin. He is a servant, yes. We have not had a single mention of the servants since the prologue for Eye of the World. Actually, no, that's a lie. Agenor mentioned that he used to fight Luz Terran in the Hall of the Servants, I think that's what it's called. Wherever the servants are gathering or whatever, Agenor fought Luz Terran there. But besides that one mention, we haven't heard anything about the servants. I don't know even what the servants are, but Alan Morin was one, Luz Terran was one, so they're pretty powerful beings. Perrin definitely becoming one, and I think he will be the one associated with blacksmithing, because it was mentioned at some point during this book that, I can't even remember the context, but Perrin talked about using Master Luhin's hammer again or something like that. So I think that would be very fitting for Perrin's character, because he really does hate to use the axe. So to see him swap towards a hammer or something, so I presume a hammer because that's what blacksmiths use. So to see him swap towards that, and I think Perrin will be that blacksmithing servant, and that he will also be the one to bring back Coin the Yar, because the methods of making that were lost. And I think if Perrin is going down the blacksmith servant route, he will learn a lot about creation that was lost to people before. So this is both a wish and a prediction. I think Rand is going to lead the Aiel. We found out about the Aiel's prophecy in this book, and Rand pretty much fit it like Cinderella's slipper. Rand is in his stage of acceptance now. He's accepting that he's the Dragon Reborn. I hope he does the same for his Aiel heritage, and I really want him to lead the Aiel across the spine and just absolutely demolish the White Tower. I hope that shit crumbles. I'm sick of Aes Sedai. I don't give a shit about any of them besides Nynaeve. I like subtle manipulators in stories, and the way that Aes Sedai do things just is not the way I like it, really. They're said to be these people who they manipulate queens and kings from behind the scenes, but they're not subtle at all. They just show up, tell people what to do, expect them to comply, move on, get their way. And I don't consider it very good subtle manipulation to just be like, yes, you will do what I say. Oh, you will do the opposite of what I say, but actually that's what I want you to do. Egwene, when Min looked at Egwene, she mentioned a white flame over her head, and I think the only white flame we've seen so far is the one on Leanne's staff, the Keeper of Chronicles, so I think maybe that's indicating Egwene will become the Keeper of Chronicles at some point. Next up, Loghain. Loghain and Perrin are the two I have the most fun predicting because they're the two I can see the most clearly, really. So real quick, I wanted to just jump in and clarify, when I said see them more clearly, I was not trying to be very pompous and arrogant saying, oh, this is so easy to predict. What I meant was that for Loghain and Perrin, I thought it was, logistically speaking, easier to work out how what I'm predicting for them might actually come to fruition. So for Loghain, there's has to be more to Loghain than what we've seen so far. Jordan would not show us him as often as he did in this book if there wasn't. We've seen him way too many times. It's suspicious. There's definitely going to be more with him. I think he's going to get his powers back. I don't know if he's going to get them back or if he's been faking it, but I think he's definitely not done with the one power. I have no idea what he can be used for at this point. I don't know if he'll get his powers back or if he's been faking the gentling the whole time, because it was said that Loghain has no desire to end his life. He has been shown to be in a bit more of a solemn mood, but maybe he's faking it, really. I don't know what the purpose of that would be. As far as getting his powers back, the process of removing them were to get a bunch of Aes Sedai together until their sum power was able to be more than his total. So they were able to cut him off from the true source. Now, I don't know how that would be reversed. I don't think there's many Aes Sedai willing to do it. I can see maybe if Rand and Nynaeve team up, maybe they can do it. Maybe even just Nynaeve by herself because she's in the White Tower, or she's going back there anyways, where Loghain is being kept. Or if maybe Loghain escapes the White Tower, don't know how the hell he would do that, but maybe he meets up with Rand, and Rand undoes his gentling, because Rand is the Dragon Reborn, he's going to be very strong at that kind of stuff. Another element to this, I feel like, is the element that was least mentioned in Book 1, the element of spirit, because we know this is an elemental system, but spirit has not been really expanded on that much. I think maybe if somebody has a especially high aptitude for the spirit aspect, they might be able to undo that for him by themselves without being strong enough in total power. Like, we saw Nynaeve force open that portal, so I feel like she's definitely in the running to do that kind of thing. But yeah, that's all I have to say for The Great Hunt. Let me know what I missed down below. I really enjoyed this book. I forgot to say this at the end of the last video, but I'm not going to be scoring stuff for the next little while until I've read 50, starting with the Eye of the World. The reason for this is that I find it a lot harder to write books than other mediums so far. It's a lot harder to kind of scale for me, so I feel like I need to establish that scale by reading more first. So once I have read 50, I'll make probably a quick video just ranking them all, giving them the proper scores, and then I'll probably include the books I read before that 50 as well. Still sticking with Wheel of Time for the next video, it will be on the Dragon Reborn, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.